I certainly wouldn't put all my trust in certain people. Now, I know you hear.
I know, and I never do that. I never do that. I always leave some.
Thank you for your time.
I leave out of there. She said, Danny, you're going to go to anger management. You're an angry black man.
I certainly wouldn't put all my trust in certain people. Now, I know you hear.
I know, and I never do that. I never do that.
Well, I think as I've talked to you about before, this is Danny McDowell, and you're familiar with his current situation. And my reasoning for this, Darnell, simply was to give him an opportunity to speak to you and just for you to know who this person really is, not what you're hearing about or what you're reading or anything to that effect. And Danny's been with us for 10 years now, and I've worked with him for a number of years, so I just wanted to give him an opportunity to speak to you, for you to see, kind of hear his side. So that's what I'm asking for you.
That occurred. I think the situation was manipulated, and I think that there were officers who were at the scene that weren't interviewed, that I think could have made things a lot easier. I'm not here to speak. The situation was manipulated, and I think that there were officers who were at the scene that situation was manipulated, and I think that there were officers who were at the scene that situation was manipulated, and I think that there were officers who were at the scene that weren't interviewed. About the gentlemen throwing bottles, because they were. And I brought their statements because I want you to actually read their statements outside of what my department has said. I want you to read their statements, sir, just to get a better idea as to what happened. There was a teacher, there was a child protective service worker, and there was a UPS guy who's been investigated by our department currently. And I don't know if it's inappropriate for me to say this, Ruben.
No, I think Mr. Ruben.
For dealing drugs. These guys were Mexican and white. Am I a racist? I think since that, sir, in my heart, I've battled, and I think the easiest way is to say I hate whites and I hate Mexicans. But as I sit here, I think of my first day here, my first assignment as a police officer, getting out of the police academy. I was assigned to a KKK rally, and I had been trained. I knew nothing about being a police officer, but my first assignment was at the courthouse. And I saw what was going on, and believe me, my life is blessed by God. I mean, through grace, I have faith, I believe in myself, and I understand that it's not about the title, but it's about the gift and what I choose to do with my life. And I think about the KKK rally, and I think about, well, then it's easy to take the angry route out because I took the short end of the stick, but if I chose to do that, I think about to lose my career. Based on hatred. It's kind of hard to swallow. I accept that because I'm standing on my way to work as a uniformed officer, as a police officer in full uniform, on my way to work, night shift, where just somehow weren't prosecuted and everything was turned around on me, and I was simply going to work. These guys admittedly were drinking. These guys admittedly were thrown out of the bars. These guys admittedly threw bottles. The investigation said that, well, McDowell said that he didn't know which bottle, or I lied, or I was confused. During the entire interview, she was yelling. I look over and I see Dan Coon, and I know that this is set up. I know that this is what this is about. The minute I leave out of there, she said, Danny, you're going to go to anger management. You're an angry black man. Well, whatever it takes. I mean, I've never had any problems. So she sends me. By the time I get home, all the officers are calling and saying, man, I heard you got sent to the psych ward. I heard you got... And I'm fine, no problem. I get there and I meet this lady, Chris Brennan. Chris says, Danny, something's going on different with your case. Something's going on different, and I'm not at liberty to discuss, but I'm not happy with it. I just want you to stay strong. We go through a process 6 weeks, and she tells me I have to go have a psych eval. Well, I go have a psych eval. This is something that I was interested in. My parents, myself, we all wanted to see my mental status, because, I mean, this is an opportunity to say, okay, if something's wrong, then something's wrong. Well, the final analysis was that I was direct and honest. That this was the first time that I actually felt mortal. And she said she explained that. And in my life, sir, I've actually been to war. I've never felt what I felt that night. I never felt what these guys made me feel like. And I'm still touched by it. I'm not going to be vindictive, and I'm not angry. And I searched my soul within the time that I've been off. And contrary, just like I told Bickle, contrary to what the outcome is, I guess this is God's work. Because there's no way that I'm driving to work and these guys just come. I've never met them before. I've never seen these guys before in my life. Certainly I didn't punch them, but I mean, I wanted to. My heart was ripped out. And only because of the color of my skin. This is like 1920s. This is a block away from my home. And these guys were drunk. My life was totally disregarded. And these guys weren't prosecuted. And here I am. I sit here today. And, I mean, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. And I do know, in the end, I mean, I will prevail. And she's safe. I haven't hurt anybody. I haven't robbed. I haven't stolen. I haven't used drugs. I haven't done anything. I've expressed anger, sir, over the phone at home. Guys fight at the bar. They're constantly fighting. The cops were scared. When we went to go pick him up, we had a police officer who's supposed to be connected to this guy take off running down the street. He wouldn't approach. I didn't know. What's going on here? And since then, these guys have been doing the same thing. And I'm at a light the other day, and this guy pulls up, and I don't know who he is because this is a different car. He's calling me. I mean, not only is their actions condoned, but it's kind of like they're being rewarded for it. And everything is thrown out of the window, and it's okay for them to do that. And I think the hurt and tired. I'm a police officer on my way to work. It's as simple as that.
Well, then I know that Mr. Thomas said probably a week and a half ago, I said he wasn't going to meet some charges with Danny at this time. And of course, if you're looking at this case, this incident occurred in October. Here we are in June. You know, the accusation is a misdemeanor assault on Danny. Prosecutor's not issued, said he's not going to be issuing at this time.
Sir, the witness, one witness said that it was a white car, one witness said it was a blue car, one witness said it was my left hand, one witness said it was my right hand. These guys are confused because I didn't punch him. There were no injuries to this guy. He wasn't injured at all. The nurses said that he wasn't bleeding, and she didn't take a picture, and she didn't make note of it because it was simply there. He was drunk. But yet he was disregarded. And the people that were there, this Van Buren and Tour and Kuhn and all these guys that were involved, well, if you heard the message, Kuhn was the first person on this guy's machine. Kuhn was the first person who called me that day. And he honestly said, well, good thing, he said, who was it? And I said, I remember the name Alex Arnallis. And he said, well, good thing it wasn't a white guy. Well, it turned out to be a white guy. And Kuhn actually turned out to know these guys. And from my investigation and from what I gather, these guys provide steroids to these guys. And I don't know if I'm going too far, but there's a connection. There's a blatant disregard. I have another officer who calls me and says, Danny, right now I was over there and they're plotting. They're getting their stories together. He went out on a limb and told me this, and he's willing to testify to that because they all have mutual friends and they're all a part of this. So again, I was just simply going to work.
There's a history with Alex, and I think you and I talked a little bit about that. He's a known drug dealer, and as I told you before, in fact, it was probably a month ago where he got barred from Woody's or Meinberg's, one of the two. fighting again. That's just his. We've gotten calls in him constantly, and you know, this investigation was done before the new board came on. It was after the new board came on, and myself and Scott, that discipline was handed out on Danny. There would have been a number of things I would have done different as the union president to see that everything was covered investigation-wise as much as I could have. In fact, there was Hernandez, there was Shermer, and Mark Scott that initially the union, our state union, said no, we're not giving statements to the prosecutor's investigation. When we got on board, actually, yeah, they are giving statements. Because everything that they're saying to them is that
Disregard me.
nothing was seen at all. So my point being, Mr. Early, is that, you know, I know from your chair, you're dealing with numerous employees, and you're being told certain things by certain people, but it's like me. Just because I hear something doesn't necessarily mean I believe it, unless I can hear it from the person and see it for myself. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to meet Danny, and you see some of the things he's done. You know, he's a family man, been employed here for 10 years. I'm asking for a second chance with him. I'm asking. And I'm not asking you to make that decision right now. And I think I explained that to you. But I mean, if you look at what he's done in his career and what he's done with his family, he's not a bad man. He's not a bad officer. That whole situation with Alex and Burris, it's so typical of these guys. That is their nature. That's their demeanor. That's what we deal with in dealing with Alex on the street. We've gotten numerous calls on him for picking fights with people. And, you know, as far as the racial slurs, I think I mentioned to you before, that's exactly what he said to one of our officers' wives after this incident. The same thing that Danny said in his statement, he said to him that night, is exactly what he said to this officer's wife. So that's typical of him. And this is the mentality, this is the person we're dealing with. And I just think that Danny, he deserves a chance. That's, you know, I realize I'm his union, I'm fighting for him, but you know, I've seen some other worse cases in this city involving other officers where these guys have been given second chances.